here again, your host, Nanda Putran, from the Indian Banks Association. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome each one of you to the second day of the FIBAC Annual Banking Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we start our first panel discussion for the day on the topic Next Gen Talent. How Indian banking can secure its future by attracting and retaining new quality talent pools amidst increasing war of talent. For the session, may I now invite the following dignitaries to the dais. Mr. Kadambelil Paul Thomas, MD and CEO, ESAF Small Finance Bank. Mr. Prashant Kumar, MD and CEO, Yes Bank. Mr. Pralay Mondal, MD and CEO, Catholic Syrian Bank. Mr. R. Subramaniakumar, MD and CEO, RBL Bank. And our moderator, Mr. Varun Kejriwal, MD and Partner, BCG. May I request Mr. Varun to initiate the panel discussion? Over to you, Mr. Varun.
Good morning, everyone. Yesterday we had some inputs at the end that people at the back were not able to hear. Am I audible at the back? Yeah, thank you. So, as we start day 2, we have one of the main things that is so pertinent about Indian banking right now, which is HR, talent, and skills. So we wanted to start things off with this topic where Indian banking now has been trying to solve and has been grappling with human resource challenges. And we've put together a fabulous list of panelists. Before I go to the panelists, let me tell you one unique trait that I saw for all the 4 of them. They all are in their so-called second or third innings in banking. 2 of them have made the move from public sector to private sector, Mr. Subramaniakumar and Mr. Prashant Kumar. And 2 others, Pralay has made the move from foreign bank to private bank to now a private old bank. And Mr. Thomas at the end, he has set up an MFI which is now converted into a small finance bank. So it's a very different dynamic because each of them has seen or grappled with different kinds of culture, whether it is a private culture, private bank culture, or a public sector bank culture. So it poses, the right environment for us to ask questions to them and get their thoughts and guidance on how they believe the HR talent landscape is shaping up. Just to set the right context here, I'll just put some data points out for everyone. Why are we having this discussion? I think there is nobody in this room who would not be aware of the massive shortage of digital tech talent that is happening in the country. India, which used to be a low-cost, resource-heavy country, has suddenly moved to a resource-constrained country where the demand for technology, digital, analytics talent is massive. Some of the headlines that you see on this page, over the last 12 months. But more importantly, if you talk to employees of banks, employees of NBFCs, they are asking about different kind of questions to their employers. They're asking about what kind of new age skill am I learning in my job? Do I need to follow the same career path as my predecessors? Can I work from home? Is this employer friendly in terms of diversity inclusion? These 4 questions are examples of the kind of questions that employees are increasingly asking of their employers, and these are here to stay. What we are seeing is 4 mega trends that are shaping the way banking industry and even employers which are beyond banking using to attract and retain such talent. The first is ways of working. There was a survey done recently, and 4 out of every 5 employees said that they would be okay about, or they would prefer working from home. So remote working, hybrid working, this is a phenomenon which came during the COVID time but is here to stay. 20% is the growth that is expected in the gig economy. So this is an economy which did not exist or was very minuscule 10 years ago. So we are seeing a large chunk of gig workers coming into the foray. The second one is around differentiated career paths. Not everybody aspires to become a manager, general manager, an SVP. People want to have the option to remain specialized, to remain an individual contributor. So is that option available? How can that be a career progression allowed in certain banks? The third is about learning culture. There is an estimate out that 80 hours is the minimum annual learning requirements per employee in banking. That is 2 weeks in a year. And 5 years is the typical lifespan of a skill set in today's banking industry. After 5 years, you need to reskill, upskill, or figure out a way to learn some other area where you can build deeper knowledge. And the last part is analytics. We talk so much about customer data, bank data. We have employee data as well now. Their health records, their preferences, their postings. How can that be used to make better HR decisions? And many companies increasingly are using people analytics at the forefront of their decisions. These were just 4 trends that we are seeing, in terms of things that are shaping banking industry and wider industry as a whole. Let me now segue to the question answers, and I'll try and make this as interactive. So maybe we'll do one round of questions and then open it up to Q&A. Maybe I'll start with Prashant ji. So you have, scripted a remarkable turnaround story at Yes Bank, and many congratulations for that. I can imagine when you took over, it would not have been the easiest of circumstances. When you look back at the last few years, how did you manage to motivate employees, retain talent?
I think your question takes me back to March 2020, when I have to take charge, and I think there were multiple issues. But I think one of the critical issues was definitely in terms of that first we need to give confidence to our own people. Because ultimately it would be giving a confidence to the customers in turn. And the confidence to the customer can be given only by your own employees. And first they need to be confident about their future. They need to be confident about the stability of the institution. And those were very difficult times because nobody, including myself, we were not fully sure whether we would be able to cross that bridge. And since we were having large number of customers who were having a fear of losing their deposits, so it means even their behavior with the employees, and I think rightly so, I would be saying it was sometimes very violent kind of thing also. And I think if a customer start feeling that he would be losing the deposit, and if they would be approaching the bank branches, then the employees would not be very sure what to do and others. So I think for us the biggest challenge was in terms of how we can give this confidence to our own people. In very few days I could realize that we had a extremely fantastic group of people. I think that was something which was very important. And in those difficult times, it is also important in terms of acknowledging their contribution, the right kind of communication to the teams, and demonstrating a respect for these people about what they have done, instead of painting everybody with a suspicion, like everybody has contributed to the downfall of the institution. Definitely there were issues in terms of some section of employees may be part of those decision making which led to the downfall. But it should not happen like you paint everybody with the same brush. So I think that was something which was very important. And initially in terms of the communication to the employees, that we acknowledge your contribution. We fully believe that you are the people who can take this bank forward. It is not like something somebody from outside would come or I would do it. Collectively we need to do it. And I think the moment we have been able to communicate to our people, and there are a lot of things which actually the other side would immediately understand from your own body language and behavior. It's not always in terms of words. But I think when you interact with your people, and if you have genuinely respect them, then I think the people get this message. And I think this is what I have learned in State Bank of India for so many years, when I was either leading the business teams or when I was heading the HR. The transparency, the right kind of communication, and the most important would be the respecting the people, because the moment you respect, you are encouraging a culture where the people would come out, they would speak out, okay? And if you are hearing them, if you are taking what their suggestion going forward, I think it makes a lot of change. I think this is something what we started doing, and I think that has actually paid us the dividend.
Thank you so much. I'll move now to Mr. Subramaniakumar. Sir, you are in those shoes now, 4 months into your tenure as MD and CEO of RBL Bank. So similar question for you now, just in terms of RBL Bank, which is known as a leader on several areas like banking as a service, credit cards. What do you see as challenges for banks when it comes to talent? More specifically technology, digital talent, because RBL was at the forefront of many of these and is known for that.
Thank you. See, the challenge what we are facing today is not something new to the new age bank or the existing banks. The challenge has been perennial the day in which the bank has been started. The predominant or noticeable thing which is coming up today is that the bank is no longer a bank of traditional. It is a tech company which is running a financial products and services. So it makes all of us to reorient our expectations and start comparing with the tech companies of today and fintech companies of yesterday. The basic difference between the banks managing the technology or running the technology and the tech companies running the technology and offering the services, regulated and unregulated or partially regulated. This is a big difference. This differentiator of, naturally you can't put both of them on the same plate and start making a comparison and then seeing that whether A versus B and B versus C. I was a little fortunate that I didn't land directly into the RBL Bank. I had a hop, step and jump through another NBFCs where the culture was absolutely a private one only. The one common thread which I saw between both of them is that what sort of stability, as Mr. Prashant has said about it, will you be able to bring a stability and will you be able to show the path of growth? These are the two common threads which is going to be the fundamental first line of action or first line of point everybody look at. If you are able to bring forth, yes, you are going to be stable. The growth is the one. So half the war is won. The people start listening to you that what sort of growth you are looking at and what sort of... So I just gave a simple call. It's a leverage the current platform, which talks about whatever that the lead and niche areas the bank has been taking about. The leveraging will always provide an opportunity for the existing talent to rise up. Right? Very simple formula is that you have to have a blindfolded interaction. This is a common, which I have been practicing it is. Remove a tie, remove a hat of an MD and start mingling with the people, have a lunch with a group of techies who joined a year before, spend time with them. Make them to have a very simple feeling that here is a guy who can be reached up for whatever the problems I have in my mind. If you are able to strike that, again, another 10 to 15% of the war is won. The moment they know that they want a move out, they will take, I have been experiencing it the last 4 years. Most of the guys who wanted to move up, even before saying yes to that place where they wanted to take a yes from me. They had a one-on-one discussion. Yes, sometimes we extend the hand and then shake and then say that, best wishes. Somewhere you're able to retain them. This again, a matter of correct assessment of the organization in my view is that an organization which simply feels about hire and not on build will have a problem. If you are building up a supply chain, which you call as a build, this is exactly what almost 80 to 85% of the guys whom I have just interacted with, or the lads or the senior management, middle management whom I interacted with, they were looking for an aspirational, quenching the thirst or quenching the fire of their aspiration. This you have to demonstrate very clearly with the expected timeline in front of them. You will be in a position to manage it in a fair way. And absolutely there is no one single formula which is going to help you out to retain the team. The retention is a problem, be it 10 years in a PSB or be it elsewhere. It's a question of relativity. See, if you look at that, the previous avatar of mine, it was more of a generalist, here more of a specialist. So the specialist growing up with the managerial cadre as per your chart also is proving to be difficult. So you have to build, provide them an ability to learn and engage and move up in the managerial one. Because they know for sure that who are not in a position to do it, they wanted to be retained in the critical. There I have seen the moment they see the guys from other generalist path is able to overtake and move up in the ladder, they also wanted to move up. The first one is an exit look elsewhere. So the build culture, if you are able to do in an organization, I feel that you will be able to manage it fairly well.
Thank you. Pralay, moving to you. At Catholic Syrian, you are also hopefully scripting a change and transformation story, moving from a predominantly gold loan heavy business to now diversifying into other asset classes. What about, and you are actually building a team as well. Right? So, when you think of such a transformation and when you start looking at hiring people, what are the things that you look at a CXO, at a middle management or at a field level?
Thanks, Varun, and thanks for this opportunity. First of all, I must say that what Prashant just told about ES Bank talent, I 100% endorse with that because I was a part of that journey in ES Bank for 6 years, and I can tell that the talents which are there in that bank, is second to none in the industry. So I think it's a wonderful organization and a great team out there, and obviously Prashant has turned that organization around, and people are very happy doing what they're doing. And that brings me to the point which Varun was asking, that what builds an organization? It's people, because we are in the service industry. In a service industry, the biggest capital for the bank, other than of course the CRA ratios and those kind of stuff, is the human capital. And if we have a sustainable story, and I have gone through various organizations, and where most of the organizations actually started from almost base zero, whether it was an HDFC Bank in late 90s, when I joined there in retail, there was almost nothing, few branches. When I started my journey in ES Bank, again, there was nothing in retail in 2012. So this story is not too different. We have a very small balance sheet with a very large vision, with a promoter who has a perspective, which is to build a large organization. And what is most important, and now coming to your question, what is most important is human capital. So first thing I do is I don't offer big salaries. Okay, not that I don't want to offer. We can't afford. We also don't want to offer big salaries because we don't want people to join us for salary. Okay, we want people with a passion, with a dream, with a perspective to do things which will become a legacy and they want to be a part of the legacy, and I have seen 2-3 such organizations in past, it's a much bigger motivation than just money itself. And eventually, if the organization does well, and which I have no doubt, and if we have a compounding growth story and sustainable compounding growth story over a period of time, people will get rewarded in terms of wealth accumulation and other things. Okay, so that should not be the primary driver for joining us. Second is, I look at people who has seen scale, has built scale, and understands the complexities of scale. Because theoretically it's very easy to say that how to manage scale and how to build scale. Unless you actually dirty your hands and do it there, you don't know how to do it. So that experiential learning is what differentiates between the management schools and what we learn in our 20-30 years of our career. So that's the second part. The third part is we want people with highest levels of integrity, because banking business is very simple if you keep it simple. It's very complicated if you make it complicated. So I learned it one of my ex-bosses, Aditya Puri, a legend by himself. And we all learned that how to keep things simple, highest levels of ethics and integrity, and highest level of respect for each other and individuals. Because otherwise, people who think that they are only making a difference to the organization, and sometimes that happens because the revenue generators sometimes feel they run the organization. The technology people feel they run the organization. The HR people think that they own the organization. But none of that is true. And the operations thinks that they are the backbone of the organization. All of this is true. But finally, like in technology, there is various core systems. But ultimately, it is integrated through ESB or things like that, surround systems. So we need to create that ecosystem where everybody comes together, works together, and with a common vision. Like a ESB in technology, it is a vision which should take the organization forward. So what we have done is we have coined a terminology called SBS 2030. Everybody should look at 2030 and say that we'll sustain, build, and scale. Sustain what you have done well, build the future highway, which will take 2 to 3 years in terms of technology, etc. Because future is technology, there is no two ways about it. And partnerships, I mean, Adil is sitting here, we know what partners can do for organizations like us. And last is scale, and scale will come following, because we are a listed bank. When you're a listed bank, you have to ensure that every quarter we deliver the ratios. To do that, we need to, if you have to build the scale, and if you have to build the infrastructure, we also have to earn profits, and that's where we have to sustain what we have done well. And we have a wonderful organization. We have very good businesses like gold loans and running, and very, very high. I mean, very few organizations has a CRAR of 25% and 18% ROE on a small balance sheet, of course. So we have to continue to sustain that momentum and build that organization. So we are looking at people who wants to come together from various parts, and we also don't want to target one organization or two organizations and one skill and two skill. We want, in fact, our technology head has come from Europe, for example, who has worked last 6 years in Europe, and he understands what it means. So to that extent, what we are trying to do is we are trying to get us a bunch of people who comes together like entrepreneurs, build, and everybody is told that you have to do from a gatekeeper's job to a receptionist job to a MD's job. So, and you should take pride in doing that, instead of saying that, oh my God, in my previous organization I was traveling business class, so I'm traveling economy right now. Okay, that's not the option. Opportunity is to see what is the roadmap ahead and what you are building, so that 10 years down the line, when you build that, you look back and say that we build it and we feel happy about it. So that's the motivation, and that's how we are hiring people at this point of time.
Thank you, Pralay. So from 3 banks which are listed, as you rightly said, I'll move to the 4th one, which is in the process of hopefully getting listed soon. So, Mr. Thomas, you've built an MFI from scratch, with a very strong social conscience. Now converting it to an SFB and building scale is again something that you are doing. With the higher attrition rates and churn that we see in MFIs currently, how are you keeping that culture intact at ESAF? Because with the bigger employee base, it is slightly more challenging.
Thank you, Varun, and good morning all. Very happy to be on a panel where veteran bankers, Prashant ji, Subramaniakumar ji, Pralay ji, all sharing their transformation stories. So, as Varun said, I founded an MFI 30 years before, and the building up an MFI was compared to the bank building process. It was easy for me because it was built over a period of time, brick by brick. So there was no compulsion, there was no timelines to achieve. But when we got the bank, the in principle license to set up the bank in 2015, we had to do that in 18 months. So setting up, getting people, experienced people, and MFI was a single product company. And the levels of the people at that time was also different. So we had to, I had attracted people because we are headquartered in Thrissur, where 3 other banks, including CSB, are headquartered. So we decided to hire experienced bankers, retired bankers on contract. That was the first thing we did, specifically for control functions, compliance, risk, and all other audit and vigilance and all other functions. When we are continuing, even after 5 years, we are continuing that for some more time. We decided to continue because a lot of expertise is available with the people. So we have a process for that. Second thing we did to attract people, we've given an option for our existing people, those who wanted to move to the retail branch banking. We've given an option. We did a test and all. Then we partnered with the SBI learning centers across the country. We trained, upskilled all the existing employees at that time. Then also we know how we are attracting talents is that we are facing, I think, the next gen is interested to work if there is a purpose attached to it, because they wanted to align their personal purpose with the organizational purpose. So there comes the culture part. So ESAF is a social bank having very high focus on the impact. So we are following ESG. We have a triple bottom line agenda. Our slogan is fighting the partiality of prosperity. So all these we are able to attract young talents to the bank, and we also do rural and local approach. Go to rural and local. So that's almost 60 to 70% of the campuses where we go for recruitment is from the rural India, and we have a special scheme to recruit people, graduates, first-time graduates from the family. And we start this process not at the final year, we start the process at the second year in the college. So we engage with the schools, and we offer internships for the students. So almost 30% of the interns come to us will be given final offers also. So that's how we managed to attract talents. And at a middle level, building up a middle management level is a big challenge. And today's workforce, the current next gen workforce, they wanted to be discussed. They wanted to be part of the organization. They wanted to be consulted for everything. So we give opportunity to the people to share their ideas. There is an automated idea sharing platform, and selected ideas are being rewarded. A lot of engagement opportunity we create. So that's how we are able to. But yes, attrition is a reality, and it is not only for the bank, it is also across the industry we are facing. And for specifically you asked for microfinance, and microfinance, 100% of our microfinance sourcing and collection is being run through our partners, the business correspondents. We have 18 business correspondents across the country. So it is an entrepreneurial model we are adopting. So going forward with the business correspondents, they appoint agents at the village level. So it is not a salary model, it is more on an entrepreneurial model. I think that is a way forward for this doorstep banking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Maybe we can just open up for Q&A if there are any questions from the audience. Yeah, can somebody... Adil has a question here. Yeah.
Firstly, congratulations to all the panelists for the transformational work they're doing. So my question is, when we're all competing for the best talent and also with many global MNCs, is partnership a way to access for fintechs to access the best banking talent, banks to access the best technology talent? Is partnership a potential tool in our toolkit?
Well, Atul, this partnership has been going on in the banking industry since ages in a different way. If you look at it, when the debit card was introduced, nobody manufactured their own debit card. They had a partner with XYZ for the purpose of launching the card, and the RuPay came up in PCI. It has been going on. But today, that is very much relevant in the simple fact that due to the simple banking, the partner will bring in the technology which will make you to make a super banking. This is exactly the model which is going forward and take our bank. We have been nurturing this as part of our journey in the last decade or so, and we have seen a lot of value in it. The value in the sense that the partners do bring in a lot of new ideas and new way of doing the things and making the journey much comfortable to the ultimate customer. And the bankers do bring in what is the regulated entities requirement and their expertise in compliance, their expertise in assessment, their expertise in underwriting. If you are able to vet them appropriately, it's going to be a win-win situation. And this is something which is the futuristic model, or the present model. It is picking up in a little broader and wider and deeper. And more innovations take place in the field of technology, and more regulatory prescriptions or aggregation is taking place. I firmly believe that, yes, this is one way we can do it. Nevertheless, the talent retention is going to be a challenge, because some of them moving from one side of the fintech into the bank, and some of them moving from the bank to the fintech, this kind of cross-border. As long as within that framework, it may benefit the people. Else, we have to be conscious of one fact. All this pool which is being created out of this partnership is going to be consumed with the banking industry, not from elsewhere. So that way I feel that it is a nice way to do the partnership, and it is, nevertheless, you have to be a little more agile in retaining the first level, second level. And you all know that nobody looks for top tier talents in entire workforce is not the top tier. You look at the clubs in Europe, they don't, flood with the top tier footballers is going to be cost conscious also. So the balancing of the top tier talents with the talent which has an aspiration to learn and grow, and having shown the growth path, this partnership will definitely cherish and it will grow.
Yeah.
I think, Adil, if your question is that should we do the partnership to address the issue around the talent, at least I would be saying no. Objective of a partnership is different. I would not do a partnership just to address the issue around the talent. I would do a partnership with the objective of a business proposition. Addressing the talent issue is a slightly different thing. Where instead of partnership, I think what you need to do in terms of first understand in terms of what kind of skill sets you require in the institution, and either you nurture them over a period of time or you take from the market. But I think your core business proposition has to be handled by you. And for partnership, you see what are the business propositions.
If I can just add to this, this is a very favorite point of mine, so I have to respond to this question. So I think in the last decade, the debate is over that whether it's because 10 years back I used to hear that fintechs wants to become a bank and banks wants to become fintechs, and both were working very hard and competing with each other to outpace each other. I think now it is sort of settled that, and with some amount of regulatory intervention as well, that at least in India, because globally models are different, India model is very different, and rightly so, that I think clearly partnership is the only way to go for banks and fintechs to work together, because banking is a deep knowledge of regulation, compliance, processes, governance, many other things. And partnership is a deep knowledge on agility, innovation, the way people think. The whole DNA of these two organizations are very different. And when the DNA is different, what you do is you say A plus B. I keep saying 1 plus 1 is equal to not 2 is equal to 11, and partnerships will bring 1 plus 1 is equal to 11. And that's what I think the debate is settled now, and most banks and most fintechs are working towards that as far as I know. Second is, Adil, your question is very broad-based because partnerships can be of various types, right? It can be outsourcing, it can be, but I'm trying to limit it to mostly fintechs because the question is coming from you. And there, it's not about cost management, it's about leveraging the kind of knowledge, understanding, agility which these organizations have. Only difference is, and at least for a bank like ours, partnerships is going to be most important, because when you go back to late 90s, when it was mostly NBFCs and public sector banks and some foreign banks who used to be running the show, and the private sector banks came in, they did a different model. Then 2014 onwards, a different model came. Right now, it's actually, anytime you start, you have a huge opportunity ahead of you of doing things. The way I look at it is, for smaller banks like us who can think differently, we see that the larger banks are already have a large back book, have a legacy, have many other things. For them to get into a partnership with the kind of terms and conditions, we're going to pinch their back book and other stuff. And for our new players, it will be always easier to get into a partnership model with no legacy and with no back book to be taken care of. So from that perspective, I think for new players, partnership is the only way to go, and technology is the way to build the partnerships with them. But most important thing, and this has been an age-old, century-old story, that partnership is about trust, and partnership is not about convenience. So when we build partnerships, we must ensure that the trust is built over a period of time, and what we do today, we have the transparency and trust over the next decade and two and beyond. Without that, partnerships don't last. So I think, yes, in short, it's a very, very important kind of a transformation that is going to play out in the partnership, at least in the Indian part of this part of the world, in the next decade or two. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just, I have a lot of hands raised, so I'll just move quickly. Yeah, maybe Manish.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. So my question is to Subramaniakumar sir or Prashant sir, because both of you have worked in public sector banks, and for talent management, when we say that now banks are more of a IT company providing financial services, so how you are aligning the workforce aspirations like remote working, anytime working, even the dress codes and all, because I see that young people, those in IT industry, they are having a different culture altogether. But in a PSU bank environment, strict discipline sort of thing is there. So how you are aligning those things in a current role, and what you are suggesting for a PSBs?
I think fundamentally what we need to understand, that currently you need to appreciate the viewpoint of others, which is also changing very fast. Okay. So the current generation, the expectations are altogether different. They definitely want a lot of flexibility. They want us to respond to their need the way they want. So I think whether it's a private sector or in a public sector, if institution is rigid and not understanding or responding to the needs of the employees, it would be a very, very difficult proposition. The only difference between the public sector and private sector, the most of the people who would be joining public sector, I am saying in the current times, one of the thing in their mind is about the stability of job. I think that is a core thing, where certain section of people would like to join the public sector. If you have a stability of job in your mindset, okay, then the issue is not about the public sector losing the talent, It's about motivating the talent, keeping them prepared for the new journeys. Whereas in the case of a private sector, because one thing is very clear, nobody comes with a mindset of the stability or the security, job security. There the people would like to experiment, people would like to go into different areas, would like to learn different things, and at the same time would also like to move the organization also very fast. So I think this issue in terms of the attrition and other things which we are discussing, we also need to understand this should not be a problem. We need to say this is a new normal. And I think we are also moving in the direction. I still remember, like, if somebody was asking me a few years back, how much time you have spent in SBI, and if I say 30 years, and if the person is from other geographies, the immediate reaction would have been either the person, there is some problem in the person, or there is some problem in the institution. Otherwise, why somebody should continue for 30 years in one institution at all? So I think that currently we are moving in the direction where the people would like to learn, move forward, not necessarily in the same institution, but definitely the institution who would be listening to their employees and providing them the solution. Okay. That is something which is important for us.
Just to address one point there, you have to, the learnings are there in both organizations, both set of organizations as well. You have more of a generalist in PSBs with a little specialist. You come here, the more of a specialist with a little generalist. If you are able to bring in the concept of the specialist focus amongst the generalists in PSBs and bringing in a generalist focus or a generalist learning to the specialists who are there in the public sector, it will be a more or less leveler, as you said. The pandemic has brought in the much of the new rules which we have been talking about. I recall my initial days in the public sector bank, the attrition was never I will never say there is no attrition. It was a big problem, the data center which I was heading. Every Saturday we used to have a party for relieving one or two. So where there is a knowledge, where there is an opportunity to learn, where there is an opportunity to grow out, there will be an attrition. You have to accept it. If you are able to bring the funnel properly right from the initial stage, you have to keep on building it. Here, the art of building it in PSB is a little different because of that structure which has been created. Here, the art of building that funnel, if you are able to sharpen it here, you will be in a position to have a better retention here. But be it a PSB or be it a private sector, the banking is normal. There will be a demand for working from home, demand for operating from the alternative locations. The BCP is nothing but making it available at a different location, different things. It is ingrained in your policy itself. When you are ready to move a guy from Delhi to Mumbai or Mumbai to Chennai or Hyderabad, here it is a normal routine way there is a BCP related activity. The guy works from, we have 3 different headquarter offices in Mumbai. They prefer to work. If there is a range there, they just mark in and they work from there. As long as the delivery is the focus, as long as the productivity is measured and it is compensated appropriately, then it will be in a position to be managed wherever it is, to a greater extent.
Good morning, sir. Recently, moonlighting has also been discussed in many forums. So, looking into that controversy or that type, how do you think that in next 5 years, the PSBs particularly and banking sector, the remote working is going? How you see that remote working is going in a big way, or whether it will be going on a downhill for all panelists, please?
I have only one point on that. Moonlighting is not an atma, or it is not a taboo. As long as it is not affecting my productivity, my delivery, my data security, my one. See, if he is going to be away from my office, substituting my time with something else is not accepted. Substantiating his efforts or his ability to deliver in 2-3 plus, as long as it is not competing, as long as it is not going to be a conflict with my way of delivery. My personal view is that it's again my personal view that it shouldn't be a problem, or it shouldn't be a taboo.
Yeah. Hi. I have a questions for the panel. Essentially, what we see, in general, everyone wants to say that there is no sensitivity regarding the age of an employee that organization wants to recruit. But what is very unwritten and undeclared is that as someone hits probably around 40, 45, then his chances of getting recruited by any organizations, whether it's banking, IT services, gets substantially diminished. While we're talking about a $50 trillion economy and all, what is the panel's view is that how they are kind of responding to this, dichotomy, saying something and doing something else, and really be, kind of age insensitive, age agnostic, because the transformations can be brought in not only by a young, entrepreneurial, very, aggressive kind of a mind, but also probably someone who has spent 20, 25 years in the industry can bring new perspective and a very effective one in that manner. So I just want to understand what is panel's view on this, and because we all, suffer in some time of our lives this.
I think, Mr. Thomas, you've hired, people who are...
I don't think that there is a issue in mid-career recruitment. Mostly the problem is that at that level 40, 45, the expectation of that person, they've worked in certain levels, so I wondered, at least I don't want to take up any other roles other than that. This type of issues we are facing. So otherwise I don't think so, because I am recruiting people at 60 also. So, and there is, we have discussed about partnership. Partnership is not only in technology. So retired bankers, now BC is open. So I am trying, ESAF Bank is now trying, we have already did a pilot, BC managed banking outlets. So I am going to open it up for retired bankers who are willing to manage a few branches as a business correspondent. So age, I don't think that is an issue, but it is an individual issue. So if you are open up to take up any role, any responsibility, irrespective, if willing to come out of the earlier hats, then opportunities are there at every age.
People on the panel. People on the panel is an example for that age is a number.
Actually, I wanted to make that point.
Sir,
3 out of 4 people sitting here, other than you, Varun, of course, panelists, have been a new job in the last 2 to 3 years, and all of us are above 50, I'm sure.
Sir, in the banking sector, the technology departments are having more number of partners. For every major service, we have a partner. The attrition, not only within the organization, but attrition on the side of the vendor is also a biggest problem actually faced by all. It may not be overcome, I understand, but what is your advice for managing that, sir? Because a well-trained person who is attending to a major project or an important changeover suddenly quits and goes, and thereafter the thread is discontinued, and the vendor themselves are also not able to provide a suitable substitute immediately, and that results in delay in the implementation of the project or some other unforeseen problems and situations. I seek your advice, sir.
See, if you ask me, is there any straight-jacketed solution? No, but there is a small piece of advice which I would like to practice in my thing also. When you are engaging with the vendor, start building up a buddy along with a specialist or a critical position which is offering it, right? As part of your agreement itself, you have it. If you try to be an L1 without H1, you will have a problem. You need to have a combination of H1 with the L1, because since it is from TSB, I'm just making this point to you. When you say that I want a 10 number of specialists for carrying out this task, you tell him that I want another 3 to be on the bench. Some of these guys who have been working with some of the top tech companies will understand that. Any agreement with any of these overseas service acceptor will be insisting for a bench. So you will know that they always recruit 150% of what is required for the project. That is the only way forward if you wanted to have a continuity.
Yeah, we are talking about the shortage of talent, and on the other side we're talking about the unemployment in the country. Forget the political announcement, but the banking industry as a whole, and this kind of platform where the IBA and FIBAC is involved, and every bank takes it up, like from the angle of compliance, costing, finance, your secretarial, various issues, legal, and the students from all these backgrounds are taken on a constant basis. I mean, if the banking industry decide, oh, this is the 2 lakh people we have to train, and the family, the student or younger people will get the opportunity of learning, and also may get some kind of stipend or salary, whatever you call, and in turn, together the society is benefited, and the industry is getting a kind of a trained people before they really decide for their career. And this will go a long way. I mean, we talk about CSR, but that is the way. After qualification, after doing something, our children goes here and there, or no employment. But this industry, I mean, can really be useful. And now I'll take it decision.
I think your suggestion, I think, just like to see from a different perspective. I have seen in case of recruitment for the public sector banks, including State Bank, recruitment both for clerical as well as for officer, they don't test your banking knowledge. They test the basic, like the mathematics, the communication, the logical thinking and other part. And getting even few thousands every year is becoming very, very difficult. So it's not always in terms of giving them the experience and taking up forward. I think it is also in terms of getting the right kind of mindset of the people who are also willing to put a lot of hard work and would like to continue. I am saying, but this is a matter of fact, whether you call this as a fortunate or unfortunately, aspiration are going very fast. And aspirations going very fast without understanding that for meeting those aspirations, you also need to put a lot of hard work. I think that is something which is missing. And I think that's why there is one of the reasons that today when we are talking of the talent issues, despite such a large country, we have not been able to develop those skill sets or prepare our youngster for the kind of roles which the banking industry is offering.
Sir,
last question, please.
Yeah, one. Just a counter question to Mr. Subramaniakumar on this moonlighting, which is becoming a problem post-COVID now. You said, I don't mind them working, earning something more, provided this, provided this, provided this, provided this. Now, how do you ensure it? I mean, whether the contract will only work, or you would expect ethical things from them? Because there are so many things which are common when you share the knowledge. Whereas you are getting the main money from the one employer, and that you are using for others to make some more additional bucks. So it is creating a lot of problem, and it is now just started actually. So how do you actually answer it and counter it to stop? Because many companies have a contract that 24 hours, 365 days, you are only for us.
See, I'm not getting into the contractual obligations. Alternately, if you look at it, what is there inside your skull, nobody has a control. How are you controlling a guy who just resigns today and then move to the next company? Can you just erase all that, reformat his mind and ask him not to forget about your data and then go and work on it? You can't. The same way the guy who is working in the morning for me in the evening with somebody else, will I be able to control his mind? No. But can I control the data and the software and the applications which is going to use it on the server, which is or access to it, or the laptop or an iPad, whatever I give? Yes, I can. There are quite a brilliant fintech company which will be able to tell me that what exactly that activities are going on. There are a lot of productivity tools. There are a lot of security tools. You need to invest on them. Yes, when you are able to differentiate, accept the fact, I am not in a position to control his mind flow and thought flow beyond my working hours. You have to accept this as moonlight. There is no mechanism. Only thing is you can put a contractual obligation saying that if you work somewhere, I can terminate you. Well, fine. He is going to join somewhere elsewhere. Why he is moonlighting it? His ability to deliver is accepted by somebody else. He is in demand in the market. You want to retain, you want to avoid attrition, accept that as a fact. And build a security feature or build an appropriate controls around not losing your data and your threat. That's it. And if suppose any of your presentations, if suppose they take it, say now we have a fancy. You walk into any of these Facebook and then try to see most of the things what we are talking in the office is being shared there. There is a policy almost. I don't think that anybody else is not having a policy which prohibits people from doing it. Is it worthwhile to put an administrative setup on top of it and see what is losing it, what is doing it? I'm going to lose huge money rather than that. So it is a cultural issue. And if you have such kind of people who are not going to be culturally aligned to you, it is better to disengage with them will be the best option for that. You need to know when to say no, and you should definitely say no when it is called for. That's the only way to address it.
Sorry, I think we are just out of town, so Sorry, should we just continue this one? I think we have 4-5 hands raised, so.
Is it legally tenable in the code of law? That, see, if I'm doing something beyond the office hours, if I'm doing on Saturday and Sunday, which I have not sold to the company, can it be stopped legally? Because see, what happens is that in India, people do not go to the court because it takes years to actually arrive at the decisions. But what INFIs of the world are doing, probably INFI is not doing, but the others are doing, TCSs of the world are doing, is it legally tenable? Because it is my individual right how I use Saturdays and Sundays when I'm not supposed to work for the company that I'm legally contracted to. What is your views? I just want to understand.
No, at least we cannot respond, and I would be speaking on behalf of everyone in terms of the legal tenability of this part. Okay, because there are a lot of issues in terms of your right for employment and right to do what an individual wants. I think it's more in terms of the contractual obligation between an employer and the employee. This is exactly what is the requirement of an employer, whether the employer would like to permit their employees to work for more than one institution. Okay. Legally, it's something which we cannot comment.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. I know there are a few hands still raised, but this was very engaging, and thank you so much for all the panelists to taking time.